You're listening to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast, episode 174. KI team member Izzy Katz is here to talk about long-term strength training goals and how she stayed consistent with her training for almost a decade.
Welcome to the No Bullshit Vegan Podcast, myth-busting and evidence-based advice to help you kick butt with your health and fitness on a vegan diet. Here's your host, Karina Inkster.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Karina, your go-to no BS vegan fitness and nutrition coach. Thanks so much for joining me. You may have noticed that for the first time in this show's 6-year history, I skipped an episode. So they're supposed to come out every 2 weeks, but 2 weeks ago, I missed publishing an episode, which is entirely my bad. I missed planning ahead and was completely immersed in directing my city's annual Accordion Fest, which you can check out, by the way, at accordionfest.com. It's an annual event that celebrates the versatility of the squeeze box, which I play, in case you're new here and didn't know that. And it features all sorts of musical genres, including jazz, classical, tango, film score, and a whole bunch more. So I direct this fest with my performance partner, Walter Martella, who's the director of the Powell River Academy of Music, which is where I teach accordion and didgeridoo when I'm not running my coaching business. So we had 2 main concerts featuring us and various guest artists, and a full day of workshops and presentations. So it was pretty full on there for a while, but it all went very well. My performance anxiety is decreasing slowly but surely, so I'll take that as a huge win. And of course, we learned a lot to make next year's fest even better. So as I mentioned, music is what I'm involved in when I'm not working my main gig, which is kicking people's butts. I mean, working with fitness and nutrition clients. And you can check out and apply for our programs at karinainkster.com/coaching. Today, I'm excited to welcome back to the show Izzy Katz. She's been on the podcast before, with a different last name, by the way, before she got married. Izzy's been on the KI team for a number of years, keeping the podcast running smoothly and getting guests prepped for their interviews, and sharing with our online audience useful vegan content every week. Izzy is a Main Street Vegan Academy certified master vegan lifestyle coach and educator. She works with clients worldwide at all stages of their vegan journey. Growing up vegetarian, Izzy became vegan in 2012 following her move from Manchester, England to Vancouver, Canada. Izzy has a law degree from Manchester Metropolitan University. She works for Fraser Health as an executive assistant, the United Players of Vancouver Theatre Company as reservations manager, and she's the communications head honcho at my company, KI Health and Fitness. In her free time, she strength trains, plays the piano, loves to travel, and is an assistant foster coordinator for Vancouver-based cat rescue organization Vokra. She's also a past assistant organizer of Vancouver Meatless Meetup and past director of volunteers for Earth Save Canada. Izzy lives in beautiful White Rock, BC with her vegan husband Carl and sassy rescue kitty Buttercup. Izzy's favorite meal is vegan butter chicken pasta bake, which sounds like an excellent combo of ingredients and basically all my favorite things in one place. Here's our conversation. Hey, Izzy, welcome back to the show. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Hi, Karina. Thanks for having me on again.
You know, what I realized is I completely forgot what episode it was, like what number it was that you were on before, so I'll have to find that and put it in the show notes, but this is Izzy's second appearance on the podcast, so I'm excited about that. It was like way back in the early days, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's like 30-something, I think, from memory. It's around there.
I think so. And now we're in the 170s, so yeah, that was a while ago. Anyways, thanks for coming on. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things, but what's been happening in Izzy's world? It's been a while since we've caught up. What's new and exciting?
Yeah, it's been a while. So no longer fostering cats. We have a resident cat called Buttercup, very sassy little madam that she is, but she's awesome and we love her so much. And I guess recent news is I got married in August. So yeah, just like 7-ish months ago, I guess. So yeah, just enjoying married life and just keep doing like all my awesome vegan things. So yeah, life is good.
As one does. Was Buttercup a foster fail? Do you call her that?
She was. So we got her. So originally she came into foster and she was in another foster home and she had her kitten. She was pregnant when she got surrendered.
Mm.
So she had, I think, 5 kittens in another foster home in North Vancouver. And then, in true Buttercup fashion, Buttercup is not a sharing cat. So Buttercup did not like the resident cat in the house. So
Hilarious.
after she'd weaned all her kittens, we got asked if we would take her in. So one Saturday in early January of 2021, I think it was, we got in our car and we drove like the hour-ish to North Vancouver to pick her up and brought her home. And yeah, it was literally a case of she just needed to kind of be spayed and then she would go up for adoption. And long story short, we ended up keeping her mainly because I think my husband Carl, when we first started fostering, he was a little bit apprehensive about having a cat. And he was like, oh,
Mm.
this is a good way for us to get, to see how we manage basically. But yeah, I think he grew accustomed to having like a little buddy during the day. So when we were looking at putting her up for adoption, he was like, I think I want to keep her. And then we're like, okay,
Aw.
we'll give it a few days. We'll give it a few days and then sort of make a decision. And then we're like, no, let's keep fostering. Let's put her up for adoption. And then he was like, but no, I want to keep her. So she became our resident kitty. And I think in some ways, so we're only allowed, because we rent, we're only allowed one animal. So we unfortunately can't foster. And I don't think she would share our time with other people anyway, or other cats. So it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's wonderful and funny. She's not a cuddling cat. She just likes her own space, but she's really sweet. She'll come up and brush against you and flop on the floor and let you pet her belly and
Aw.
stuff like that. And she's very chatty, so it's just like having another human in the house, honestly. Because yeah, she's just like meow, 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 meow all the time. So
Adorable.
yeah.
Aw. You like how I went for the cat topic before the wedding topic? I'm like, oh my God, cats.
Nothing wrong with the cat talk, hey?
Right? Oh man. But just so our listeners know, like I have seen Izzy, like in real life relatively recently in White Rock, actually, when I was there for one of my friends' weddings. So we have met up, like, it's not like I'm just like glossing over the wedding fact, although I kind of did and I went straight for the cats.
It's all good.
But yeah, also for listeners who don't know who Izzy is, she is our communications head honcho. So that means dealing with all of our podcast guests, getting them ready for their interviews, sending the podcast intake forms, scheduling things, communicating with them, often communicating with PR teams that are, like booking guests on their behalf, basically. So communication head honcho at
Yeah.
KI Health and Fitness. And also client at KI Health and Fitness for how long now? 9 years? Did we just have our train anniversary recently?
Yeah, it'll be a decade in December.
Oh
Like this
my
December,
God.
it'll be a whole decade, which is just
We have to do something crazy.
we do have to do something crazy for that, because like in my head that's just insane. Like it's just insane that that's been almost 10 years.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so when we started, what gym were we at? Was that APT
The one next to the Safeway
on Arbutus?
on Arbutus, yeah.
Yes, okay. So
Yeah.
that was the first gym that I ever trained clients at. And I started there in 2011, so that was a while back. So we met there, but then I moved, of course they closed it to knock it down and create condos like most buildings in
Yeah.
Vancouver at this point. And so we moved to a different gym. I was at one on Broadway for a long time. And then in 2017, I went completely online. In 2018, I moved to Powell River. So yeah,
Yeah.
you've been part of the team in various capacities for almost a decade. How awesome is that?
I know, it's crazy. And it's funny, like when I think back and like just how I knew nothing about fitness when I first joined to like start training with you. And I remember like I saw you, like you gave me a program, we went through it, and then I was training out of the YMCA in downtown Vancouver, because it was like a 10-minute walk to my job. And I was like, oh, that's handy. But the YMCA in Vancouver is so busy. I used to go to the gym at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I would be there. But yeah, looking back and just when I would go into the gym when I first started training on my own, just doing my own workouts, I used to just feel so intimidated walking into a gym space. And now I can walk into a gym space and I'm just like, yeah, know exactly what I'm doing. And I can tell if this is a good gym or not, like just by looking at it, which is, I just think is really fun. Like, it's just cool that it's gone from one extreme to the other.
That's freaking awesome. Seriously. I mean, we're going to talk about some of that strength training craziness and awesomeness, but I did just look it up. So this is actually your third appearance on the podcast. So episode 23, way back in the day, was recovering from major surgery.
Yeah.
Back when you had abdominal surgery with 9 incisions, and about how you got back into strength training and daily life, you know?
Yeah. And that'll be 8 years actually in a couple of, like in a week and a bit, like I think April 7th. So probably by the time this is aired. Yeah, that'll be 8 years in April.
Yeah, for sure. That's incredible. Yeah. So back then we were talking about how if you hadn't been strength training regularly, how your recovery might have looked different.
Yeah, definitely. And what I think's interesting is, and I was talking to my husband about this the other day, I could have come up with every excuse under the sun not to keep training after that surgery. I was like they cut my freaking core open. And that was like I had to learn to walk again because of like just, how invasive it is. And I'm super grateful that I trained with you because I would have been in worse shape and it would have been so much harder to get better. And there's still things now when I train, like I feel certain things and I'm like, yeah, I know that's from surgery. Like just, certain moves I can feel aggravated. But like I said, I could have come up with every excuse under the sun not to actually train anymore. And what I think is cool is now I'm doing chin-ups. So
Oh my God.
I
Yes.
just think that's just really
Yes.
awesome because I remember trying chin-ups like in person when we were training, and I was just like, there is no way I'm ever going to be able to do that. Like it's just way, even with the band, like it's just way too hard. And like I'm definitely no expert now, but I can at least do one like unassisted. And I just think like considering what I've been through, I think that's just really awesome. And I'm so proud of myself for that.
Well, you really should be. You know how many chin-ups the average female can do? Any guesses?
I'd say without training for it, probably none. I don't know anyone that can do them that hasn't trained for it.
Correct. Yes. It's 0. It's because of the training piece. It's not that like women can't do chin-ups. It's mostly either someone jumps up to a bar and attempts to do a chin-up and realizes they can't, and then they're like, well, I guess I can't do chin-ups. End of story. Or they just don't have a program that is progressive and makes sense for a major strength goal like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you've been strength training consistently for a decade almost. And this is like a relatively new strength achievement. It's a huge milestone. It's something I think a lot of people have either in the back of their minds, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool? Or they have as a legit current strength goal, do an unassisted pull up or chin up. But a lot of folks don't really know what it takes to get there, like how long it might take, what's reasonable in that time frame, what kind of exercises to do that aren't even chin up related. You mentioned doing chin ups with bands, for example. A lot of people think about that, or like the assisted chin up machine in the gym, which is not the greatest, honestly. So, what has it looked like for you? It's been a long term goal. I mean, I think it's extra impressive, and it's an extra major achievement given what you've gone through, given the surgery, given the recovery. You still nailed an unassisted chin up with, by the way, perfect form. We've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyeballs, and I can tell you it's not one of those bro chin ups. It's like 3-inch range of motion, right? This is a full dead hang all the way to the top, all the way back down. Legit. So what has your training looked like? What has that been like for you over, I think it was about 18 months?
Yeah. So I would say like when I first began training, like way back in the day with you, like I know we would do like assisted ones and it was just so hard. I was like, and I don't often say there's no way I'm ever going to be able to do something because what I like about myself is I always set myself challenges, which usually are completely out of my comfort zone, and I manage to get to them somehow. It's just an Izzy thing.
So awesome.
So like way back in the day, I was just like, I'm just going to table that because, like that seems really hard, but maybe one day. And then I would say probably about 2 years ago, I started thinking about it because I would have got engaged around that time as well. And I'd sort of, like with the pandemic and everything, we'd created our own like little mini home gym. And I'd got a chin up bar because I was like, oh, I actually want to start, want to actually start doing something to kind of get towards this goal because I feel like I'm in relatively decent shape. So yeah, first thing really was like get the chin up bar. I'm lucky that at work we only like for the pandemic, my work gym actually didn't close too much. I think we were closed for a couple of months. So I'm super lucky that at work we actually have like a chin up bar that I can use. It's a little bit slippy, but it gets the job done. First things was kind of like just getting a bar and starting to use the bar at the gym at work. And oh, I know like we chatted about stuff and I was like, okay, how do I get started on this? And you were like, okay, let's get you some chin up bands, basically. I remember the first time like I tried like an assisted chin up with the band, like the band that makes it the easiest at the work gym. I was just like, holy shit, this is so hard. I just was like, this is just like, what am I doing? Like, literally, what am I doing?
What the heck am I getting myself into? What did I sign up for?
I was just like, there's just no way. I was like, this is not possible. So, yeah, just starting with that, I think I could maybe get like 2 reps in with an assistance band. And I was like, I'm done now. Like, I'm done now. So sort of started with the resistance band type thing. And also like just doing dead hangs and stuff. Like I know you and Zoe were really good about programming stuff that would help me get to that goal. The thing that I found, I'd say the most difficult was negatives. Like I used to detest negatives so much because like, so the way the setup is at the gym at work is that I have to jump up to get to the top of the bar. And that is really hard on your arms. Like,
Can you explain to our listeners who might not know what a negative is, what a negative is?
yeah. So a negative basically is like you start at the top of the bar, like, right. So you're like basically like you're gripped to the bar, like you're at the top of the bar and you lower yourself down and you try and do it as slow as possible, really, because that's the best way to build strength. Negatives are really hard. That's all I have to
Yes,
say.
they are.
Especially like they're not really hard. Yeah, they're not really hard now. Like my body's used to it, but I remember like the first I'd say maybe month, 2 months of doing negatives, I would just be like maybe could do one set a week because I would just feel that sore after negatives because it works your whole arm. So like your grip is like, like your grip strength and just like your whole arm. And it's just kind of insane. So I would go for massages to try and help, but I literally would feel like I had like those like T-Rex arms most
Yes.
of the time, just because it's so difficult. But I found like once you kind of get over that, like it really hurts and your body gets used to it. I found negatives really helped with actually building the strength up to be able to pull myself up more using the band, basically. I'd say every so often I would get a little bit. So I have issues with my shoulder, my left shoulder sometimes. So I just sleep weird. I know I do. Like I'm one of these people that just moves around a lot in their sleep. And like even my eye mask is like the other side of the room when I wake up in the morning. So sometimes I'll accidentally pull my shoulder muscle in my sleep and that kind of takes me out for a week and I can't really do anything like upper body related just because it's so painful. But I found actually, just side note on that, I found that actually now that I can do chin ups, that happens a lot less. Like
Interesting.
I definitely have more strength in my back. So that's really cool. Yeah, like the more negatives I would do, the more I'd actually be able to pull myself up more with the band. So like assisted chin ups. Every so often I would just try and just be like, okay, how like can I pull anything from like a dead hang or like halfway up or something like that? I would just try. And usually the answer was no. So I just be like, okay, just gonna forget, just gonna keep going, just gonna keep going. So I would basically work on increasing how many reps I could do, either negatives or just assisted, and just try and build those numbers up. And I want to say, so I did that for about 12-ish months. And then we got married around that time. And after the wedding, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try. I'm just going to try and do a chin up. Like, I'm just going to stand on the floor. I did it at like the home, like with the bar we have at home. I was like, I'm just going to try from standing. Can I pull myself anywhere over this bar. And I did one and I was like, what has happened? Like, that's literally the first thing that went through my head. I was like, I cannot believe that, like, A, there was any movement, but B, I just got my chin up, like chin over that bar. And okay, it's not from a dead hang, but it's from something. And then my arms were like done for about 2 days. They were like, I was sat on the couch, I could feel like my biceps just like shaking. I was like, oh my God. And then the next time I was like, okay, Carl, my husband, I was like, you got to film this. I said, I want to send this to Karina and just show her that, like, look what's going on here. So I remember him filming. And I think it was around the time you were visiting for your friend's wedding as well. Kind of all coincided. And I was like, look what I can do. Which was like super amazing. Yeah. So from there, it was just a case of just, I managed one of those basically for being stood on the floor. And then I started increasing that, still doing like, the negatives, still doing assisted chin ups, but just, maybe taking a break of a minute between sets and just saying, okay, can I do another one from the floor? And for the first couple of weeks, the answer was no, but I kept building it. So now I'd say I can probably get, if I'm stood on the floor and I take a little break between sets, I can probably do 5 to 6, which is, I think, pretty good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? But I know it's either sort of back end of the year, so like late 2023 or very early 2024. It might have been very early 2024. I remember you saying to me, you were just like, just try it. Just like, just hang and see if you can pull yourself. And you were like, it's probably like, don't worry about it if it doesn't happen, but just see if there's any movement. And I was at the work gym and I was like, okay, I'm just going to try this. It's like, and I remember like literally like gripping the bar and just being like so afraid to take my feet off the supports because I was like, I'm going to go nowhere. And there's just like a fear inside. And then I was like, okay, Izzy, just do it. And then I pulled and I moved and I got up over that bar and I was just like, holy hell, I just did my first chin up from a dead hang. So yeah, so I left it a few days and then I video recorded it because I was like, I want to make sure they're actually doing this properly. And I remember sending it to you and you were like, dude, that is like super amazing.
I probably said that exact sentence. Dude, that's super amazing.
I saw someone yesterday who'd been on vacation. They were like super orange and like, dude. And I was like, oh God, I'm channeling my inner Karina. But yeah, like, and since then it's just been a case of, I can't do more than one from a dead hang. If I take, like, I can't do more than one consecutively from a dead hang. Like, that's not happening right now. But I can do one from a dead hang, take a break for maybe a minute, and then do another one from a dead hang. So
that's huge.
There's progress and it's little. I think that's the thing to keep in mind. Like, it's not a goal that you're going to get straight away. It's going to take time. Like, it's going to take time. And there are days where you're going to feel like this is really hard and I don't want to keep going, but you can do it. And I guess that's what I would say to people. Like, just believe in yourself. Like, if you work hard enough and long enough at it, if I can do it, and I've had stomach surgery, and I was like the least athletic child in school. Like, I literally would get picked last for everything. And now it makes me laugh. Like, if we had like a work Olympics or something, I'd probably be team captain.
Oh, 100%.
But like, just keep going and just keep trying. Get a good coach, or at least get a good program where it's going to enable you to make those progressions, because otherwise it's kind of hard if you don't know what you're doing. It's really hard to get there. It's not like we're male and we're built differently and it's easier. It's like, you gotta put the work in. That's the only thing I can say. You really have to put the work in.
Well, you're an absolute inspiration, because one of the things I'm thinking here is, okay, this is an 18-month project. And really, if you think about it, it's more like a decade in the works, right? Because you had all of your strength training background before you officially started training for chin-ups. But you mentioned a couple times that there were instances where you're hanging from a bar, you try to chin up, nothing happened, but you just kept going. You're like, well, okay, moving on, stuck to the plan. What gets you through that? Because a lot of folks would do that. Like I mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation, I've actually spoken to a lot of females specifically who walk up to a bar, try a chin up. Of course they can't do one because they haven't trained for one. And that's it. End of the story. How did Izzy keep going for 18 months until that first chin-up happened?
I think part of it is inner stubbornness, because I'm just like, I really want to do this. And I'm just like, I'm going to try. And also just looking back at the stuff that I have done since I started training. And like, before I met you, I'd never lifted weights in my life, period. And now I look at what I can lift, and none of that came in the first session,
Right.
like
Good point.
everything I've had to build up to, like every single thing that I do, I've had to build up to. And there's things that I can't stand. Like I detest cardio. Like I just hate it. Like there's nothing worse for me than being on an elliptical, or maybe the rower. Actually, I think the rower is evil. But if I don't practice at it, and if I don't try, it's always going to be that way. It's like I'm never going to be able to row for 5 minutes unless, like, I just can't row for 5 minutes. I don't know why, but unless I work at it, it's never going to change. So I think for me, it's just knowing that I have great coaches that really help me and that I trust and I know are building things into my program to help me get there. And just also just my personality is just like, I'm just going to keep going. And you know what? If it doesn't happen, I can just do assisted ones. Like I can do more of those than I ever, like I just literally the other week, I went down a band because I started on like the thickest band and I'm on like the second to thickest band. Because in my head, I was like, with myself, I said to myself, okay, you've got to get 2 sets of 10 out of this green band before you drop down a band. Like that's non-negotiable, Izzy. You have to do 2 sets of 10 and then you can go down a band. And I think it was maybe last week or the week before, I finally got to that. And I was like, okay, going down a band. And even the other day when I tried it with like the band that's got less resistance, I was like, I got a set of 6 and a set of 5. And I was like, I should be pretty proud of that, And once I get to 2 sets of 10 with that, I go down a band. And I know all of that is helping me in the long run. It'll all play together and work.
That's brilliant. And it's so applicable to anything people want to work on. I mean, I remember very clearly when I was 19, hanging from a bar at a playground with one of my friends. We were on a walk around Science World in Vancouver, like the False Creek area. There's a little playground there, I think right outside Science World. Anyways, I have this image of my brain that that's where it was. Just like swings and monkey bars and whatever. And we were just like playing around. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to try a chin up. So I'm hanging there. I think I even have either a photo or a video from like an old school camcorder that I used to use back in the day. That was my grandma's. Anyways, I remember hanging from this bar and I was like a tiny person at that point. I think I weighed probably like 20 pounds at least, less than I do now. And I'm hanging from this bar, not moving at all. I'm trying to do like at least an inch of movement. Nothing's happening. I'm just like, how is this physically possible? But I think that day was when I started thinking about chin ups. Like, hey, this is actually something you need to have a plan for. And this is already a couple years into my strength training journey, if that's what you want to call it. I started when I was 16. So I'd already been lifting reasonably okay. I mean, I didn't have coaches. I didn't have a decent plan. I was just kind of getting into it myself. But the chin up thing just seemed impossible to me at that point. And I remember it very clearly, hanging from that bar with my friend, just being like, yeah, that's hilarious. You can't move. I'm like, yeah. So how do I get to the point where I can? And thus began the chin up journey.
And now you do like weighted ones, which I just look at and I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do you do that?
Well,
which is just like so badass. But
yeah, but it's almost 20 years down the line, though. I mean, I'm going to turn 38 in June. So, 2 decades of being obsessed with chin ups will get to the point where you're chaining accordions to yourself and doing chin ups just for shits and giggles. That's in your future, though, Izzy, based on where you're going now.
Yeah, definitely. But one thing I really like is so like I work out at lunchtime at the gym at work. And for some reason, the bulk of the people that I see at the gym at work at lunchtime are female. I don't know why there's not an equal representation of people there, but it's usually females. And there's like 1 or 2 of us that use the weight section and most others do cardio. But what I find cool is that the people that I do like see at the gym, they've all asked me about it. They're like, wow, like you can do those. Like, how long did it take you? And it's nice to start talking to them and get them interested in it too. I always throw in that I'm vegan just because I'm like, I'm so gonna
Of course.
do that.
It's a superpower.
But yeah, it's nice to see other people look at it and be like, oh, maybe I can do it too, because I'm like, I literally couldn't move, like similar to you. It's like, I'm not going nowhere. And I cannot really go very far with a band. So it's kind of nice to give other people, I don't want to say inspiration, but just change their perceptions and look at it and just be like, oh, maybe if I train for it, like one of the girls I go to the gym, she she does kickboxing, like fights
Hmm.
and stuff. And I'm like, you should try. And she's
Wow.
like, oh, there's a bar at my condo gym. And I was like, hello, just get yourself some bands and start. Yeah, so it's nice just to see other people just be a little bit more like, oh, maybe I could do it if I tried.
Mm. You know, you brought up veganism right as I was going to. I saw the parallels there because people know we're vegan. And, you know, we don't need to like necessarily shout it from the rooftops, although we like doing that in a positive way, of course. But it's kind of the same, right? Like people notice you doing your thing. People ask you questions. You know, you can just be an awesome vegan and people will know that you're a person to go
Yeah.
to ask about recipes or, hey, I need to make dinner for my son's girlfriend and she's vegan. What do I do? You know? So you become like a go-to person just by doing your thing and having it out there that this is what you do. And I think it's the same with strength training where people are cluing in, right? I mean, not in a like creepy watching your every move kind of way, but just like, oh, that Izzy, I see her at the gym. She's badass. She does chin-ups.
Yeah, and it's like I don't shove that I'm vegan down people's throats. I mean, people that know me,
Right. Me neither.
they know that I'm vegan because I've been vegan for like over a decade too now. It's like, it's a long time. But I like that it's just challenging people's perceptions.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, like, most people think women can't do chin ups, and then there's no way a vegan could do them. So I'm like, yeah, actually, I can. And one of my friends at work, she's pregnant now, so she can't really go to, well, she can go to the gym, but she doesn't feel comfortable going to the gym because she's pregnant. Fair enough. But anyway, one of my work friends, she calls me the Beast,
Oh,
which
I
I
love
love.
that.
I said I'm gonna get it put on my nameplate on my desk. She's like, don't go to the gym. Like, don't go to the gym with Izzy. She's a beast.
I love that.
But it makes me laugh. And I'm like, well, please do go to the gym. And
Hmm.
that's like the thing I find challenging with that is, though, I'm like, please do go to the gym with me because I don't want you to feel bad. I just want you to look at me and just be like, oh, like if I work, I can be like that too. It's not about showing off at all. I'm all for
Hmm.
people doing whatever they can in any way related to fitness. It's not like I want to be like the best person there because I'm not. I know I'm not. And I just do my own thing and I like feeling strong.
That's what it's all about. Well, okay, so in terms of long-term strength training then, what has kept you going in that department? I know Izzy is a stubborn human like me. Sometimes people say like, "Oh, like they asked me how old I was when I started accordion and they assume that it was like 5, but it was 27. I started in 2013." And they're like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
how come you're playing concerts and all this stuff?" And I'm like, "Because I'm stubborn." That's literally the only answer. I have like a very routinized practice schedule and I'm stubborn about it. That's the answer.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's part of the answer here. But like how for you have you maintained, I don't want to use the term motivation because from our discussions and listeners know from this show that we don't rely on motivation for long-term goals because it's very fleeting. Sometimes we're motivated, sometimes we're not. We have to teach ourselves to operate without motivation. But what keeps you going? What keeps you long-term consistent, let's say?
I'd say the biggest thing for me is it's built into my day.
Ah,
Period.
okay.
Like it's built into my day. My workouts so I'm extremely fortunate that I just go down 2 floors at work and there's a gym there that I can access 24/7. So that is huge for me. Like I know like I could probably move to another job, but I'm like, there's no gym at that site. So no, I'm good here. Because the fact that it's there is like, and I know we have stuff at home, which is great because like I'm off work for Easter now. And it's like, okay, I can just do stuff at home. And worst case scenario, I'll just go to the gym because it's just 10-minute bus ride away.
Mm-hmm.
But I know having an actual gym where I work, so basically access to what I need, that's the main thing. And then just building it into my day. So we do weekly check-ins, like, myself, you and Zoe, like we have a weekly check-in on a Sunday, just like, what have I done this week, basically. And usually on a Sunday, I will go through my calendar and look at my week ahead and be like, okay, what days can I work out? That's like the main thing is what days can I work out? And then I sort of work that around. Sometimes I'm in meetings over lunchtimes and it doesn't always work, but I try and aim for get to the gym 3 times a week at work. That's it. That's all I need to do. And then just go for walks. Like outside of that because I just find walking is really beneficial for me. My real hack is just build it into your day. If you know that between 12 and 1, that's your workout time, once you get into the routine of doing that, it's so much easier. And there's days where I don't feel up to it. Like there was a day, I think it was last week, and I just felt like garbage. And I was like, okay, I don't think I can do workout number 1 today because it's a bit out of my comfort zone on a good day. So maybe let's go do the TRX workout that I've got in my app. And, like that's another thing. Sort of look at how you feel and sort of adjust your workouts, what you have available to how you're feeling that day. Like, yeah, there's some days where I don't feel like I have it in me to do something really, really strenuous. So I'll do something a little bit easier, but I'm still working out. So yeah, I think the main thing for me is just having it built into my day and just being consistent around sticking to that schedule rather than just being like, oh, like I'm motivated to go to the gym, because there's days where I'm not, but it's like, okay, it's gym day today, going to the gym. I'll see you all at 1 o'clock. And I just go down and see what I can do.
This whole idea of like trying to operate without motivation is exactly what you just said around it's built into your day. It is baked into what Izzy does in a week. And you're also still planning ahead, right? So on a Sunday, just for folks who are listening, with all of our clients, regardless of what program they're in, on a Sunday, in their own time, they're sending us a quick check-in. What was a win and a challenge from the past week? And what's something you're planning for the coming week? And it doesn't have to be like a full breakdown of Monday, I'm going to do this. Tuesday, I'm going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But just, something you're planning, something you want accountability around. For Izzy, it's usually I've planned out the days I'm going to work out. I might do some food prep on this day, like, the basic building blocks of staying consistent. So there's a little bit of planning ahead, and there's a little bit of this is just Izzy's normal. It's not something like it would feel weirder for you to miss a workout than it does to do a workout, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely, like on vacations and when I'm away from work, it's definitely harder to stick to that routine because there's so much going on at home and there's other like competing priorities, right? But yeah, like for me to skip it, and I don't even feel good when I skip stuff. Like, because A, mentally I beat myself up, but then B, like I'm so used to that movement that I don't feel as good either. So and I find as well, like, I know a lot of people are into like meditation and things and yoga, and I used to do a lot of yoga. Pre-stomach surgery, I find some of the like downward dog is not a great move for me. It's just not. Just too much pressure from different things. So I can't really do as much yoga as I used to do. And meditation, yeah, I try when I can. I try and do meditation, but I find like going to the gym is kind of like therapy for me. I'm very in the zone and I'm focused on what I'm doing, and a lot of like the mind chatter sort of stuff is gone because I'm just like trying to focus on lifting heavy stuff. So I find it's not just good for me like physically, but it's also really beneficial for me mentally as well.
And that's a benefit that I think a lot of folks have to experience for themselves. It's well known that working out, specifically strength training actually, but any type of exercise is related to positive mental health outcomes. But I think with something like lifting, there's a specific focus required, right? Sometimes with cardio, for people who do like cardio, and by the way, the only form of cardio I like is swimming. Well, and jump rope. But any other form of cardio, nope. You can kind of zone out a little more. You're not worried about like dropping a 50-pound weight on your head, for example. And so for a lot of people, the mental benefit of something repetitive like running or swimming comes from that aspect, which I can appreciate. But with lifting, it's different. You have to focus on different moves. You have to set up for things. You're counting reps. You're thinking about the mind-muscle connection. You're making sure your form is good. If you're doing it at an appropriate intensity, there's not a lot of room for other things in our brains at that time.
Yeah. And I like doing things that stretch me. Like for myself, like I really like doing things that stretch me. Like when I start, so like some of the moves that I can tell sometimes Zoe's thrown something in just so she's like, let's see if Izzy can manage this. And I'm like,
100%.
Not quite sure, but let's try. And like sometimes I look at some of the workout stuff and I'm just like, I don't know if I can do that, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. And it's kind of nice to be like, oh, I can actually, I can't maybe do 10 reps of it, but I can do like 6 or something. And it's kind of nice to build up on that and be like, look what I can achieve if I try. And like, yeah, especially with what I've been through, like, like I always look at that and just think, wow, like you're doing like, I think it was push-ups the other week. We were doing push-ups with one foot. And I just looked at that and I was like, I don't think I can do those, but let's try. And I got 6 out. I was like, check me out. I can do
Nice.
like one-footed push-ups. Yeah. So it's really, for me, I just really like just achieving, like sort of overcoming what I don't think is possible and just being like, okay, let's just try it. Let's be open-minded. Worst case scenario, you can't do it, but you can keep working at it till you can. And I don't, like for myself, I don't have the greatest like mobility in my hips. I know I don't, like, so I do struggle with some of like the lower body stuff. Whereas I feel like I'm stronger in like upper body moves just because of that. Like I can't get my squat as perfect as I'd like, but I'm like, just whatever, it's fine. It's still a squat. Yeah, and we're limited at work. Like we don't have like a bench press and a squat rack and things like that at the work gym. So there is limits with what I can do. But I think I make the best use of the equipment that we do have. And I think it's just amazing, like that we have a good gym that I can use and I don't necessarily have to go and share stuff with all the bros at like the fitness place up the street.
Isn't that a bonus? 100%. Yes, absolutely. Plus, you have your own setup at home. And, this just goes to show that you can get insanely strong without barbells and without plates. I mean,
Yeah.
you just work with whatever equipment you have. It could be kettlebells, it could be resistance bands. If you're going to do chin ups, you need some kind of a bar. So getting your home set up, like the doorway bar, that was huge.
Yeah.
But you don't need an insane amount of weights. You don't need barbells if you don't have access to those. It's just whatever's available. TRX has been huge for us in our programming, just at home and also like in the drawer in your work desk that you can just take to your gym.
Yeah, and it comes on vacation too. Like I know for our
Right.
honeymoon, it didn't really work out because the setup in the Airbnb that we were staying at just didn't kind of work for it. And I'm kind of fussy about floors as well. And I'm just like, it hasn't been vacuumed properly. And I just get a bit paranoid about stuff like that. Anyway, so although I did find like a chin-up bar in this park that we went to for lunch, so I did like a couple of chin-ups when I was away.
Love it.
But like TRX is so easy to throw in your suitcase or to keep at work. And I know you bought that TRX for me years ago. It was like a birthday present or something. And people ask me all the time, they're like, where did you get this TRX from? And I'm like, well, I think it came from Amazon, but I didn't buy it and they don't exist, that company anymore. So,
No, it's too bad. I remember that company because I think I still have mine. It's the same one. It just lasts forever. And I took it to Australia.
Yeah.
Because Murray, my husband, and I went for 3 weeks back in 2017 with only carry-on. And a big portion of my carry-on luggage was my travel didgeridoo because, of course, I'm going to bring a didge if I'm going to Australia. I also bought didges when I was there. But anyway, so I didn't have a ton of space for the food that I have to pack, being someone with food allergies and a vegan, like half my shit is food. And the didgeridoo doesn't leave a ton of room for other things, but I did bring the TRX and just like hooked it up to a tree or found a goal post in a park or whatever. And that was basically my gym for 3 weeks. It was amazing.
Yeah, and like if we're staying at hotels, which we do occasionally, like if we go to Whistler or something like that, like the hotel room doors are really strong. So you can generally just like loop it over and like shut the door. Because even though it opens inwards, it's not going to give you too much problems just because of how strong the door is. Like on a house door, I wouldn't do that. But on a hotel door, I'm okay with that. So I think like that TRX is just like a lifesaver. Honestly, it's such a good little piece of equipment. And then like resistance bands as well. Like I've got resistance bands that I can hook through the door and things like that. And just, like we have adjustable dumbbells and my husband uses them quite a lot. So it's just nice to have little things at home that help. And like you said, you don't need a whole bunch of equipment and you don't necessarily need squat rack or a deadlift thing or anything like that. Just, you can build quite a lot of strength with the basics.
Well, and you're living proof of that. You're like the poster child of making use of what you have, being stubbornly consistent, nailing long-term goals. I mean, that's just super inspiring. We should all aim to be a little more like Izzy, is the moral of today's story.
I give credit to Karina for making me more like this.
Oh, Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But you're the one putting in all the work and being consistent and, going through surgery, coming back from that, not giving up. I think that's super amazing. So if folks want to listen to Izzy on other episodes, we have episode 23 talking about said surgery and recovery and what that meant, and episode 90, which came out during the pandemic, where you're talking about working in a hospital setting during COVID, what that means for your fitness, what that means for health, just kind of generally what was happening at that time. So if folks want to listen to 23 and 90, those are the other Izzy appearances on the show. So I'm super grateful that you came back. We had another chat. We could catch up. Anything you want to leave our listeners with as we're finishing up?
I'd say just don't get disheartened if you are finding that you're not able to do something in the moment. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to down the line. So just keep going and believe in yourself. And one day you'll be doing chin-ups too. So yeah, just keep going.
I'd love that. Absolutely. That's what I'm getting out of our discussion is there will be times where things don't work or you try something and you're like, oh man, I still can't do that.
Yeah.
Sure. Disappointment is all part of the deal. That's fine. You can accept that. But it doesn't mean quitting. It doesn't mean you're never going to be able to do it. It means you need to keep going with some kind of a consistent plan. And also, it's not the end of the world if you never do a chin-up or whatever goal you have set for yourself. You're still gaining strength. You're getting mental health benefits. You're increasing your bone density. You're building muscle. All of these things are happening whether or not you achieve that end goal. It's nice to achieve that. And yeah, it's long term, but look at all these other potential positive things that are happening along the way.
Yeah, and I would have been okay if I never got to that. Like, even if I just kept going and it's like, nope, you're never going to be able to do that. I would have been like, well, at least I tried.
Right.
If I never tried, I wouldn't have known. So, yeah. But I believe that, if people put the work in, at some point, they'll at least have more movement than they did when they started. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Izzy, it's always great to chat. Thank you so much for coming back on the show. Fantastic to speak with you.
Thanks so much for having me, Karina.
Izzy, thanks again for joining me on the podcast. Access our show notes at nobullshitvegan.com/174 to connect with Izzy and to check out her previous episodes. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening to the No Bullshit Vegan podcast at nobullshitvegan.com.